I'd like to call the meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thanks everyone for attending. Hate to throw a wrench in everybody's plans tonight, but I do need to take a motion for us to enter executive session to discuss a legal matter with our attorney. Quick motion by Kevin, seconded by Heath. All in favor for that? All right, thanks. It should 10 minutes here for public comment tonight. All right, if anybody out in the interwebs has any questions or concerns, please email the district and someone will get back to you. Move on to board discussion. We have the Board of Education minutes from the November 4th meeting. Questions, concerns? Motion to approve those by John, seconded by Ed. All in favor? Anyone else have anything else for board discussion tonight? All right, moving right on to the...
Actually, real quick, I'd just like to thank the Culinary Club and Mrs. Romine, Mrs. Jabrone, Mr. Cooper, Mr. Walker, and all the students for the absolutely great meal they gave us today for the Culinary Club dinner they do for the board every year, so it was absolutely outstanding. So I'd like to acknowledge them and recognize what a great job they did.
Absolutely. I agree. It was turkey, so if we're napping.
Anybody, anything else? All right, move on to the superintendent's report.
Okay, good evening, Mr. President. Good evening, everybody. First, I want to start off by acknowledging some of the donations that will be on tonight's agenda. We have a $566 donation from the Gloversville Retired Teachers Association to be used for the backpack program. We have, I think, 36 sets, right? 18 for each elementary school? I think it was 18 sets for each school, right?
Yes, so 4 dozen in total.
48, okay. So 48 sets of winter coats and snow pants from the Knights of Columbus to be distributed to our elementary scholars in all 3 buildings. So there's some nice photos on the internet that Chris and I and members of the Knights of Columbus, nice brand new coats and snow pants, and given the winter we're having, it's much needed. So appreciate the generosity of both of those organizations. Also want to point out on tonight's agenda is the retirement of our Director of Student Support Services, Mrs. Nicole Morton. After many years, 17 years of service to the district, we thank her for her service and wish her well. She'll be missed. She's been a great colleague, and something tells me we'll still see her in some capacity, some manner, shape, or form. So maybe we'll still get to torture every now and then. Thank you for your service, Nick.
Congratulations.
Just mention a few holiday school events, in case folks haven't heard about them elsewhere. The Miracle at GESD, housed in Park Terrace in the basement. There's some photographs on the internet, correct? Looks great. I walked through it before it was completed, and I'm definitely going to go. It started November 30th, December 1st. It was this past weekend, 7th and 8th. It will be again on the 14th, 15th, the 21st and 22nd between 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. They have candy cane and ornament making stations, and Santa Claus will be there. It's really cool. So those who want to get in the Christmas spirit, please go to Park Terrace and support. These proceeds also support the backpack program. So, also, we have our winter concerts in 3 of our schools. Well, 2 of them will be held here, but the Boulevard concert will be December 12th at 6:30 p.m. in our middle school auditorium. Again, Boulevard Winter Concert at 6:30 p.m. in the middle school auditorium on the 12th. And then we have tomorrow night the GMS Winter Concert, 12:10 at 6:30 p.m. in the same auditorium. And the high school winter concert will be December 18th at 6:30 p.m. and that will be at the high school. Correct? That'll be at the high school. Okay. So anybody that still wanting to get into Christmas spirit or holiday spirit, please come out and listen to our musically inclined scholars, chorus, and our bands. They always do a great job. So just want to give a plug for those. Also, I want to speak to the generosity of our district staff. We had a family, I'll leave them nameless for now, but Most people in our school community know that there was a fire in our community, a family lost everything. And a letter went out from the family to our staff and to show their appreciation. Something about this community that I always admire is the way that they pull together when a tragedy hits a family. Can't say enough about the way this community pulls together. Thousands and thousands of dollars raised, items donated. The generosity has overwhelmed the family, who obviously needs the assistance, but they've received so much, they're able to actually give a lot of the stuff that they've received to other victims of fires in our community. So this is a real testament to the generosity of this Gloversville community. Those of us who've been around Gloversville a long time know that there's that piece to us, but I think sometimes people forget that this community is a very giving community, and it's important to note. Along those lines, you know, again, this year, the work being done with the staff, working with Toys for Tots, the Key Club, LaShawn's Heart, I think is the other organization, and obviously I just know the business office heads up adopting various families, so it looks like Santa's Workshop over in our business office right now, and I know all the schools do the same thing. So along those lines of generosity, I tip my hat to this school community. People really come together in the holidays to try to lift everybody up, and especially the unfortunate moments. So thank you for everybody's generosity. Last week we had a 2-hour delay. A storm hit, a tough hour. I was cringing when I asked Danielle to look at our 2-hour delay attendance, and rightfully so. It's pretty abysmal. 61.8% in the high school, 64% in middle school, 58.7% at Boulevard. Kings was 62.8, and Park Terrace was 56.8. And I know that these primary principals in their own messages encourage people to send their kids to school, telling them that instruction continues on our 2-hour delay days. Can't get that message across to parents and guardians clearly enough. 2-hour delays are not snow days. You know, that we delay to give the staff, give the city, give residents time to shovel sidewalks so kids aren't walking in the streets, provide more clarity, more daylight, but it should not be a day off. Attendance matters. There's a nexus between being in school and being successful academically. And you know, I'm never going to not delay school because I'm worried about attendance, because safety is the highest priority, but I encourage parents and guardians to do whatever they have to do to get their children to school. 6 out of 10 is not enough. When our attendance is running in the high 80s and low 90s across this district on any given day, and to see it drop double digits on 2-hour delay days, it's not, there's no excuse in my opinion. I mean, I understand some people got to get to work, but figure it out. Any thoughts on that? Comment? And I encourage residents who don't have children, shovel your sidewalks, because when I see kids walking in the streets, it's a responsibility. A lot of people do. Like to get out, snow blow and shovel. If you have an elderly neighbor, please help them out. But to see kids walking in the streets, that's something that we obviously don't want either. That's why it's really important when I see people purchasing boots and stuff for kids and hats and gloves. It takes a community or a village to raise a child, and this community does not let down, but let's get them to school. The buses are running, the city buses are running, the sidewalks are being cleared. Let's get them to school. On tonight's agenda, there's also some things I want to point out. With us tonight is Mrs. Sarah Matarazzo. Sarah's our next Director of Student Support Services, and we're excited about her joining our team. I think Sarah's going to be a great addition. She comes highly recommended by a lot of people I respect, and looking forward to working with you, Sarah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for coming tonight. We also have Mrs. Christina Elias on tonight's agenda, our high school principal, who's done a great job in the last few years. Mrs. Elias has made it clear that she's interested in curriculum work, and we would be remiss to say, no, you're such a good principal, you're going to stay doing that, because somebody else will take her up on that desire. So for now, we didn't post this position. It's a position that is a administrator on special assignment. You know, the most important thing we do is try to improve our collective instructional efficacy. And with the loss of department chairs, there was a need, especially in the secondary level, for more increased curricular oversight. And this move certainly was a response to that. It's something that we were looking at long-term anyway, to to fill that and the position that's been vacated in the elementary, but we're not just hoping that things, that the right person will come along. We have plans. We're going to be strategic about how we fill this, and we're starting with the secondary. We think Christina would be great in that capacity, and leaving that high school to chance of who would manage it wasn't an option either. So talked to Tom Chacho. Tom's a Gloversville native, well-known in this community. He was a colleague of mine at Fonda Fultonville. He became the superintendent for the last 8 years, recently retired. Seemed like a no-brainer. He coached for the school system. He worked as a psychologist through BOCES, I think, based out of the school system. Tom was the right person for us to recruit for that position. And he has a few obligations that might not keep him here 5 days a week, but I think 3 to 4 days a week. And with Christina housed out of that building when he isn't here is a good match for us and what we need moving forward. Obviously, we think Dave Waring's doing a great job as assistant principal. And we also have Brian Van Ostren that will be filling the role as a high school dean of students. It's been vacated, departure of Mr. Slezak. So Brian Van Ostren is currently a long-term sub-phys ed teacher in the middle school. He's a certified administrator, worked as an athletic director for Johnstown in the past. He's a known entity. He did his administrative internship here in this district, and we are confident Mr. Van Ostren will do a nice job as well. So a lot of changes mid-year administratively, but when you recognize we have a lot of responsibilities in running the school system. As Dr. Rapley said earlier today, we're so good at what we do in school systems across America that they keep adding responsibilities, not only instructional responsibilities, but now social emotional responsibilities, nutritional responsibilities, DASA, 365, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. The district school systems are required to regulate, online comportment of students. So there's a lot of responsibilities, and like Dr. Rapley said, it's because we're so good at what we do that they keep giving school systems more responsibilities. But the most important responsibility we have, our true mission, is developing obviously the whole child, but the primary part of that that's incumbent upon school systems is educationally to prepare them to be successful, and that requires a strong curriculum leadership, continuity in instructional practices, constant evaluation of what we're doing, using data to drive our instructional practices, and the outcome needs to be more students succeeding, graduating from high school. That's our mission. That's what we're here for, and we should not ever lose sight of that. So I think these moves that we're making are good ones, and I think it's going to allow us to do a good job to continue the momentum we've had in ensuring continuity in instructional practices. So, Mrs. Lyas, we appreciate your willingness to take on this next role. Any comments? All right. Mr. Chacho, we'll torture him at some point, make him come in and do a report. Also, along those same lines, there's a lot of mid-year instructional resignations. Obviously, Nikki just resigned for purpose of retirement, but this isn't just a Gloversville issue because there's numerous appointments on this agenda for people who are leaving other districts to come here. But we have people who are leaving our district to go elsewhere. It's something that you did not see in our profession 10 years ago. You do not typically see a lot of mid-year movement. Less people are going into our profession. People are retiring when able. So you're seeing more mid-year movement. People can go on step or even above step, being hired steps above their experience levels. So you don't typically see the number of instructional appointments that you do like we do on tonight's agenda. We have Christian Lipinski, a social studies teacher, come to us. Tom Patrica, Francesca Marshall, Carolyn Fitzpatrick. Tom is a part of the Utica program, the Utica Teacher Preparation Program, second career individual. Some of you may know Tom. He's in real estate in our region. Good man, wants to be a secondary math teacher, so I tip my hat to him for that. There's a need. So he's one of our 3 people that are going to be employed by the Gloversville school system who are in the teacher certification program at Utica College. Amsterdam's the other district that has 3, and then there's a few other districts of 1. But it makes sense that the larger districts in our region would have more people in these programs. And those other two positions, as I said, Francesca and Carolyn will both be elementary special education. So we welcome those individuals along with Mrs. Matarazzo and anyone else who's on tonight's agenda who I did not mention, but those are the only instructional administrative positions that are on tonight's agenda. The last piece I want to say to the community, at our last board meeting, the mayor came in and asked the district to consider paying for the crossing guards. The district has committed to paying for half the cost of the crossing guards, and I have communicated with the chief of police and the mayor that the district would like to see the city take that back over, because it seems like there's a lot of profit being lost to this California agency. But the district is committed to, for this year anyway, paying for half of the cost of the crossing guards. Obviously, getting our children to schools safely is our highest priority. We do not have any jurisdiction in the streets of Gloversville, so we're not hiring crossing guards directly. It's not our place to, nor are we looking to get into the business of doing that. But as far as trying to help the city during a fiscal crisis to ensure the safety of our scholars coming and going, I applaud the board for their willingness to do that. That concludes my report, unless there are any questions. Okay.
All right.
I will need an executive session to talk about personnel, 2 personnel matters.
All right. All right, no one had any questions? We'll move on to the next item, which is administrative reports, and I will turn over to Nikki Martin for her final presentation.
Feel free to torture.
As the Director of Student Support Services. Let's not torture her.
For those of you who might know us, I'm Nikki Martin. I'm the Director of Student Support Services for the moment. Why don't you guys introduce yourself?
Assistant Director of Student Support Services, grades 6 through 12.
Jillian Riley, the other assistant director, K through 5. Sorry, I can't do 2 things.
View slideshow.
Here.
Second one now.
Oh, thank you. We good?
I have the order memorized, Chris.
Okay.
All right, so basically, we're going to review some of our data tonight, break some things down as far as programs. I just want to give you a kind of a forewarning. Our data, we follow the data that's on the New York State website, so it's always previous data. It's not, the very current data that they report. So you want to go ahead and start?
Mm-hmm. So this is our enrollment of students with disabilities. In the gray is our K through 12 numbers. We're hovering right around 500 since 2021. Our CPSE numbers these are at bed state numbers. So in 2021 we started with 38. By the end of the year we were at 86. 2022-23 we started with 46. We went up to 86 again. 23-24, 52, up to 100 by the end of the year. So far this school year, since July 1st, we've had 40 students move into our district and 50 students with disabilities move out. As you can see, since 2017, we're hovering right around 18 to 20% of students with disabilities classified for our district. And this is just a breakdown of the disability for our students. Learning disability is the primary disability that our students have. OHI and speech are one of the more frequent ones. We're seeing more, especially K through 5, of students with autism coming into the district.
Okay, so placement by LRE, the least restrictive environment. So here are some of our numbers over the past few years. Regular classroom, that would include like our DCT kids that are included in general education classrooms. And then it goes down in percentage. Some of our kiddos that have, their days are split between some DCT classes and maybe some self-contained. And again, the other percentage where they go into a little bit more self-contained and less regular classrooms and then separate settings altogether. Those are our out of district kiddos, our BOCES placements, and other outside programs.
Residential.
Yeah, residential programs. You can see so in the current, is this the current year? The 23-24 school year. So we did make some improvements here. We increased the amount of kids that were in the regular classroom. Our goal is always to have them in the least restrictive environment as much as possible, so we're working on that. And our separate settings also decreased, so you'll see on another slide that we're actually we were reaching state goals, expectations with that one in that year. And you'll see that we went up actually in the one category, but that I think is due to some of our kiddos coming back from those programs, those out-of-district programs. We brought them back to district and they needed self-contained settings. So they're not yet in the LRE, but they're working their way there. Here's just a different breakdown of it from 2021 to 2022, where we were and then where the state expectation is, where their target is. And I think in the 22-23 school year, the 33.9% didn't change, but the others are getting better. And here they are again. The 33.9 didn't change, like I said. And then you'll see the improvement with the 23-24 school year in the two categories, making pretty good gains. We can go to the next one.
No,
That's you. Oh, no. 23-24 is not on there because those are our estimates. They are not put out by the state yet. Like Nikki had said, you know, the state is usually a year or two behind with their data on the state website. So those are our projections for those numbers. And the bottom, the separate school is actually less than their 5% that their target rate. We are getting better with, we're not quite at 58.75, but we're getting better there. It's in the 40s. And the inside regular classroom is at 29, that went up. But again, that's because we did bring students back.
And we are very diligent with our kids as far as, you know, whether or not they need a more restrictive setting or not. Our staff are very aware of it. We follow the learner characteristics that we have identified for the district. And we're always trying to decrease the amount of support when it's appropriate.
Another factor that is helping us with our regular classroom percentages are declassifications. So there isn't a slide on the declass, but in the 23-24 school year, we did declassify 25 of our scholars. 12 of them were preschoolers in the CPSE, and 13 of them were in the CSE school age range. And you know, we're always trying to make sure that we're taking care of our kiddos and meeting their needs appropriately. And then once they don't need us anymore, we set them free. So we don't hang on to them when they don't need us anymore.
Our school age numbers usually hover right around similar numbers each year. Our CPSE numbers, you usually see the lower ones like this time of year, and then they jump up. For the 3- and 4-year-olds, it's because those 4-year-olds have turned 5 and they're in kindergarten. So I have the 3-year-olds who become 4-year-olds, and then it's the newly classified students that are coming in.
The ones we're declassifying CSC, what primary, intermediate, middle school, when does it typically happen?
More often than not, it's the younger kids that are classified speech and language.
Yeah.
And they get declassified pretty early as well.
Yeah. I have a lot of students that, when we're discussing kindergarten, they're classified speech and language. That may be the only service that they get. And they're just cleaning things up at that point by like 1st grade or so.
And our declassified students aren't just released from special education services without any monitoring. They do get support services, declass support services for a year. We keep an eye on them and make sure that they are maintaining their skill set so they don't need us anymore. Students who are declassified after 8th grade maintain their test accommodations, so those students can continue to access those test accommodations to help them throughout the rest of their career without being classified as a student with a disability necessarily. And so far this year, we have declassed 1 child, but again, annual reviews and reevaluation meetings are coming up here in the early spring, so there may be more.
This slide right here, this slide it's frustrating to look at, and it makes me sad. This is data actually from 22-23. I can tell you that a lot of work has been done since these numbers have appeared. Last year we made several changes, especially at the elementary level. We implemented a different curriculum. Jill and I worked with the former elementary curriculum director as well as our elementary admin. We changed the reading curriculum. We also made changes as far as special ed programming. We had co-teach classrooms at Boulevard, and we switched those to the DCT, it's direct consultant teaching. Basically, our teachers, rather than being in the classroom all day, as far as like co-teach the two teachers, they're in there for ELA and for math. We also instituted with admin and with our elementary curriculum director, WIN groups. It's the What I Need groups. It's very similar to like, the concept of AIS, but it groups students accordingly so that they're working on skills that they need. This is the actually information that the regional partnership had shared with us over the summer when we met to talk about some coordinated intervention. They're working with us primarily regarding suspension and graduation rate. Our regional associate from State Ed is also working with us due to student with disability performance on state tests at the 3 through 5 level. So basically, all of these areas are connected. They all kind of intertwine. If students become more proficient, they're less likely to drop out, they're more likely to graduate, and they're less likely to be suspended. So, and they're more likely to be in the least restrictive environment. So they're all interrelated, and we're working on different aspects with the partnership. Primarily, we're addressing the development of functional behavior assessments and behavior intervention plans. And we're also looking at anything we can do in terms of graduation and suspension. The suspensions would relate to the behavior plans and the functional behavior assessments.
Do you expect that 23-24 suspension data in special ed population would be lower than the 4.23?
I think it was somewhat lower. It wasn't tremendously lower last year when we were doing that work with them. We're hoping that it will continue to drop.
I know the efforts in high school with that room, the alternative to suspension.
Yes.
Do you think that'll have an impact?
I think it will. I mean, we didn't start it till January, but I think just even being in the high school, talking to the staff, I think there is a difference. I think that matters.
I see less hearings
Yes.
in that building.
Not gonna look. I always tell you, don't say things out loud. Yep. I did total up some of our meetings, our amendments, our evaluations, just so that you know what we're doing. Our total CPSE and CSE meetings were 1,186. Our total amendments, that's basically we send a form to parents asking permission to make some changes to the IEP, and we lay out the specific changes, what they would be. There was 269 of them throughout the school year. That's July 1st through June 30th. And that was just this past school year. CPSE initial evaluations, we were at 67. We recently had taken on evaluations for the CPSE kids. There was an agency, it was Community Health Center. They were doing a lot of our evaluations, and they really don't exist anymore as far as this. And Whispering Pines was also completing a lot of our evaluations. They're doing, I believe they are for Amsterdam, and I'm not sure if they are for other districts, but basically we've had to take that on. Of those evaluations, our psychologists do every one of them because there's a psychological and a social history attached to those. More often than not, a speech eval is done with those. And it depends, there could be an OT or a PT evaluation. So our staff definitely have taken on that extra. As far as the initial evaluations for our school-age kids, there was 21 initial evaluations, which that's not really too bad for a district. I remember years when I was a psychologist. What did I say?
21.
Sorry.
Close enough.
I remember when I was a psychologist, there were years where I did 20, 22 initial evaluations myself for, where I was located. So for a district, that's not too bad. The reevaluations, that's the testing that's completed at least every 3 years to ensure a student still qualifies for services or to decide that they need to be declassified, they no longer qualify. We had 170 total throughout the district.
Is that roughly just a third of the population that why? So
Yeah. Yep. Sometimes we do them a little bit earlier. If we think that a student is ready to be declassified, we have to have a reevaluation to declassify, so we'll ask for that to be done earlier. And then I just wanted to say thank you. I know some of those numbers, like I mentioned, it's frustrating to see because I know how hard our staff are working. Our teachers, whether it's gen ed, special ed, our related service providers, our admin, aides, TAs, you name it, they're really pouring their heart and soul into supporting our kids. So it is noticed, the collaboration and the teamwork that I see in our buildings, it's amazing, and it's all for the kids. So thank you, and thank you to our Board of Ed too. We appreciate your support, and you too. He's looking at me like.
I was gonna give you your last moments to roast me or something.
But no, thank you, we appreciate it. We appreciate the support. Do you have any questions? I know we threw a ton of numbers at you. Okay, all right.
Nice job.
Thank you.
All right, next report is from Mr. Hedwell, the principal of the Gloversville Middle School.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Cody Hedwell, the middle school principal. With me, who's trying to get his computer set up. This is Mr. Heiser, our assistant principal at the middle school, so just going to take 1 second. I'd also like to say what Mr. Lott had said in appreciation of our culinary club who put on a great meal for everybody. So if you need to take a second while I'm just doing a filibuster, you need to stretch out. I know you had a lot of turkey and all those great sides that they were talking about. So my favorite was the girl that's never cooked stuffing because her dad usually likes the box stuff better. So well, maybe you can try to convert them. So we'll get started. We're going to be reporting on our SEP. I did take it and kind of abbreviate it. We do have a much larger document that is given to the state. I know you guys vote on it earlier in the school year, but these are kind of the highlights of our 2 commitments. So the first commitment really talks about our social interactions amongst scholars. Last year I think that was one of our commitments towards the end of the year is what we were seeing in our middle school was we had a high number of referrals and a lot of interactions with our scholars that weren't always positive. We looked at our scholars not having the correct skills to kind of be in social situations where they could really listen effectively, kind of navigate through their emotional, trying times within the building. I think we've tried to bring things into our building for this year, having a full-time dean, bringing in our hall monitor, having those yonder pouches, have all been things that we have created to kind of help with what we're doing here at school to help them kind of go through those processes. Having Mr. Hollenbeck full-time gives us more consistency to see these kids, have real conversations with them. So when we see a kid who's struggling all day long, we can provide them with more supports and resources so they're not falling into that chronic cycle of I'm going to go from period to period getting in trouble. To address this, we have also beefed up our PBIS committee and our social emotional learning committees to try to address these things in our classes. We have seen, and Mr. Heiser can speak to it as well, is that in our system of education, just providing a referral in a discipline for children does not stop behaviors from happening. We're going to put our scholars back in that same situation day in and day out. A lot of our behaviors, when they're in the hallway, there's a lot less structure. When we're in the cafeteria, before and after school, when we're going home, these are all situations that our kids are going to be in daily. If we do not teach them the skills to be successful after they got in trouble, we're still setting them up to do the same things over and over again. Just like all of us adults, if we don't really think about what we did or kind of prepare ourselves to change our behavior, we'll still set back into those ways of, I'm going to keep doing what's natural for me. So having those extra supports, having those things that we can highlight our kids' behavior is allowing us to try to make some changes and push them into the right direction. If you want to go to the next slide. Our second commitment talks about academic performance. You can see that on the slides that our special ed department just gave. Those are not just our special ed scholars. These are problems that we see throughout our buildings. We are trying to address that with layering more approaches. One of the largest changes we had here at the middle school was changing what is paired next to AIS. Some of our scholars who receive AIS, they've been getting that from math and ELA. Our scholars who don't fall into that criteria of needing AIS, they were put in more of these enrichment flex classes that had a lot of just flexibility within that period. We've redesigned those to become learning labs, These are paired with our science and social studies teachers. They are going to be creating more of an enrichment class. Talking about things we still need to work on. We still know we have scholars who are not in AIS, but still need supports. They're still struggling, and we can teach more into those periods. So we really looked at how do we use that 40 minutes, 42 minutes more effectively in the day. We also changed it by, you don't have that same teacher every single day. And that was what our system was in the past. So now they're switching also between social studies and science. As the year goes on, I want to build more capacity into what we're doing in those periods. But really, it was one of the first steps was just trying to develop something that the kids had to provide more of an instruction for them. There's a lot that goes into it. I think Ms. Lias coming on as a director of curriculum is just going to allow us to put more efforts into these places where we know. When we were starting off the school year, all the departments also had goals that reflected the goals of our entire district. So working with all of those, we really have a idea of where we want to go in each department, but that's really our two focuses for the SM. So any questions on those two commitments? Like I said, this is the brief overview. We do have a much larger SUP that goes into much more detail. I'm happy to talk about it with anybody if you want to come see me. It's a few more pages. So, on to one of the other things that we like to highlight quite often is our attendance. It is a small, nice thing to look at when we can just say our attendance has almost gone up a full %. That's 200 less absences than the year before. So 61 days, this was of Friday, we have 200 less absences this school year than we did the previous school year. But we're still sitting at 90.5, so we're still ways away from where we want to be. That number that we'd like to see is that 95, but we hope that we can keep kind of that momentum going here through the second quarter. The second and third quarter traditionally is always our harder quarters. That's because of December and winter and all those other fun things that come with that. But really like to highlight Mr. Holleran said is that when we have days where we have a 2-hour delay, the importance of still coming to school. At the middle school, the secondary level, we still have our scholars go to every single period. They don't just miss that first half of the day. We shorten our periods down so our kids get to see every one of their instruction in their classes, and they get that instruction. So we really want to see them. I even tell parents, you have a dentist appointment, doctor's appointment. We would rather see our kids for an hour than no time at all. If you can get them back, I know some people, they'll go out to Albany for their doctor's appointments, but if you can come back, we'll take you at any time. If the kids are hungry, we'll find a way to feed them. We'll get them whatever they need, but we just want them in the building. So that's only going to help us, create systems of, just routine and get our kids under the standing of, hey, I need to be here every day. To go along with just some of those numbers, I added in our diagnostic for reading. If you want to just jump to the next slide, Travis. This is more of the comparison. So the slide before will show you the domains and where kids are falling, but really for you guys, I just broke down the numbers. We're about where we were last year with that first diagnostic in September to this first diagnostic. Really we want to see a lot of our kids in these first 3 categories. This is the September data. So really that being 1 grade level behind is not too bad because they're taking that diagnostic. If I'm a 6th grader new to 6th grade, I should be 1 grade level behind because I haven't met any of that or seen any of that curriculum. So we do want to keep growing those numbers, but one number that I do want to just kind of circle is that 3 or more, we are decreasing in that area. So we are getting our scholars to kind of move up. We do want to see more up in that top number. I want to go ahead to math. Again, these are the numbers in comparisons to the year before. Again, we are seeing some movement going the right way. The base number I like to see we're moving is those first 3, but if you go down to the 3 or more grade levels behind, we are making some movement there. So those are always good numbers to say, how do we get our kids moving in the right direction? I think having more of that goal mindset with our department chairs and some of the goals that we have set with or the plans we've set with our commitments, hopefully we'll start seeing these numbers start to move in the right direction. Now I'll turn it over to Mr. Heiser for PBIS.
Yeah, so as Mr. Hedwell said, our attendance is something that we're really focusing on, and we wanted to, one big change we wanted this year was to increase more positivity within the school. So many times last year, Mr. Hedwell and I were dealing with a lot of negativity, so this year the goal was to kind of have some positivity, and having a full-time dean, having more active members within our committees allowed us to start a better PBIS program than we've had in the past. So every month we have an activity that we're doing. This year for November we did our first annual GMS Thanksgiving Parade. May have been very elementary, but I will tell you that our kids, the scholars, enjoyed it tremendously. It was a way for us to see kids out of their element, working with kids that they maybe never have worked with. Teachers got involved. It was, the band was involved, so it was a very positive event leading into Thanksgiving break. So that was just one example we've done. Another thing that Mr. Hollenbeck, our dean, started. This is some pictures of our PBIS Thanksgiving Day Parade. You can see we had kids dressed up. Mr. Hollenbeck was a reindeer. So it was very positive.
Who's behind Mr. Hollenbeck there?
That's just Santa.
That was Santa.
Nice try, Mr. Locke.
So, it was positive. Kids enjoyed it. Teachers enjoyed it. It was just fun, right? And I think we need to have more fun in school, and I think ultimately that will help increase our attendance as we go along. Another initiative we started this year with the help of Mr. Hollenbeck and his wife Diana is we started a program called Positive Referrals. Positive referrals is just what it sounds like. So many times we have to call home on things that are negative. This was a program that we started where we asked teachers to send us messages of students they see doing the right things. And when we would write that up, and then we would call the scholars down one by one, and we'd kind of have fun with them, say you received a referral. I think we had fun with Mr. Locke and his son a little bit, but the kids are kind of nervous. These are kids that generally aren't in the office. So when we call home, the parents are nervous, but then they quickly turn around. So for us, it's about building those relationships, right? So this is just another avenue for us to talk to parents that we might not otherwise have the avenue to talk to. So it's been very well received within the community. So it's a program I think is going to take off and do wonders for our school climate as well.
I do think it's very strange, the kids that we bring down for positive referrals, the first thing they say when we say, we're going to call home and tell them, like, can you pretend like I'm in trouble? I guess, but and then their parents start like getting nervous. I'm like, all right, I can't do this anymore. I'm just going to change it. So, but it is a nice change, for Mr. Heiser and myself. Like you said, have a positive connection with so many of the families we don't typically get to reach out to. So we like to carve out quite a bit of time on our Fridays to make sure we're making these personal calls and making sure the families are knowing about their kids that are doing these great things. And I always love to call the families who they're working in other buildings, call through their main office, like to call over to Boulevard and say, can you find me so and so? And then they start freaking out too. So it's a great time for us as well.
Great program.
So does anyone have any questions for us? Or
Have you seen a positive turn in referral rates in general?
referral rates in general are up right now where we are to comparison to last year. We are up 200 referrals. We also have 200 more days of attendance too. So, we can take that as what it is. We have 200 more days of attendance. That's 1,800 more periods that have been attended. So,
Would you say some of the referral increase is probably a larger focus on smaller infractions as well?
we do have, it's the defiant, non-compliant, inappropriate behavior. Those numbers have increased. So they are the normal things I think you would expect out of a middle school. We do have a trying population who does like to kind of test the waters at a school. So they are the things. One of the numbers I'd say that I would highlight is the causing bodily harm. Last year, that number at this point in time was 48 referrals. At the present, it's 19. So we have significantly dropped that, whether it be, towards another scholar or towards a staff member, we have made great improvement in that area. But like the smaller referrals, we do see quite a bit more there. I think having a hall monitor who's in the hall, you do catch up some of those, the kids being late, the kids not, being in an appropriate location. We do see a higher, number of those, but I think it's also where we have the capacity to see those kids, write them up, and, have that happen as well. So it's kind of a catch-22.
I don't really see that as a bad thing, because I do believe that you're able to triage the smaller stuff, and I think a lot of times things spike before they dramatically drop out. I wouldn't be surprised to see a major decline in a lot of these as those relationships are built. Mr. Salvione, Mr. Hollenbeck, and you guys are obviously able to help kids realize that it pays to behave.
Yeah. And that's why I pointed out that causing bodily harm is probably our worst case scenario referral that we have. Dropping that such a significant amount, I think for us, we take that as a win. Like you're saying, like those referrals take quite more time to process than a scholar who's, being late or, goes to the bathroom for 15 minutes rather than going to class. That's a more quick conversation, quick turnaround, getting them back into the room rather than, a scholar who decided to physically interact with another scholar.
I would guess a lot of the small ones are things that might not have even been addressed in years past.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And, some of those things like technology violations went up because we did have the yonder pouches too. Bringing in a new system where last year we were, we were saying like if you were in the hallway between classes, as long as you were moving, you were fine. We saw that it created issues other places. That you had the kids that were very slow moving, going to class, and it became more of a point of, I'm going to argue this. We turned to off and away in September. It went very well, but the addition of the yonder pouch has continued to put us in a spot where our kids are talking more. They're interacting with each other in the cafeteria. There's times last year I could go up to two kids who were having a conversation on their cell phone, sitting next to each other rather than just speaking with one another. And that speaks to what we said about just dealing with problems. A lot of the problems that we were, having to address, they never talked to each other. They were going through an app to, talk back and forth. And sometimes the things that were said over a text chain would not have been said if they were sitting face to face and had to say those words. So we're learning a lot about just the things we say. In October, we did bring in Ryan's presentation, which was a gentleman who spoke to all those things. Speaking to, your words on social media are just the same as words in real life, highlighting that for our scholars to say, this is why we need to take notice of the things that we post or the things that we type out. It has impact on others.
Last year, you remember the opportunities, right? I haven't heard anything from really anybody, so, except for positive stuff. So that's a testament to you, the teachers, everything you guys are doing, so great job.
Appreciate it.
I agree. As an employee that's been in the Pleasant Middle School building as a voice employee for many, many years, I think this year I've seen such a change in the culture of the building, just how the kids are interacting, how they're talking. I haven't seen one student on the phone all day. There are students on the phone constantly hiding in cubby areas, they said out of class. So just the change in culture this year at the middle school has been really, truly an unbelievable improvement from past years and years I've been in the building. So definitely a great job by you guys and all the staff in the building. So.
We appreciate it. Thank you.
Great to see you.
It's something we definitely can feel. When we look at the numbers, it doesn't always tell us the same thing as how the day-to-day works. So the day-to-day is completely different. Even though referral numbers might be up, it is a different feel. I think there is more of an emphasis on our scholars being in the classroom and doing the right thing. So it's a nice change.
Sorry. Nice job, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is the student and board member report.
All right. Things at the high school are going overall well. The class of 2025 has their Santa project that's planned for the 18th. As of right now, 58 students are signed up. On Thursday night, they're going to be organizing and separating books to distribute to the elementary school while they go around. We're currently in our 12 Days of Spirit Week. Today was The Grinch Stole My Book Bag. Tomorrow's Dynamic Duo. Yeah, that's a fun one. Followed by Dynamic Duo, Wicked Wednesday, Crocking Around the Christmas Tree. That one's going to be great. And Ugly Sweater Day. the day before our Christmas break, we have a Holly Jolly volleyball tournament planned. That's going to take place at our pep rally. And just recently, everything for our senior lounge came in, and that's actually, it's really great. Our seniors are using that throughout the day in their study halls. Our CTE kids are also using that while they wait for their bus. It's currently for seniors who have senior privileges throughout the day. However, all seniors can use it during lunch, and that helps to remove some of the congestion in the lunchroom. So far, the senior lounge is just a great program. And while speaking about lunch, our lunch lines are back to a regular time, which is great to hear. It's just occasionally slow if we've got like a really fancy lunch, and they've got to measure out, count 5 chicken nuggets or something like that. But otherwise, our lunch lines are great now, and everything is back to normal. So that's about it. Right now, we're just trying to finish up all of our units and make it to Christmas. And that's about it. Any questions?
Jam.
Thank you.
Who's the brainchild of the 12 days? What was it, the 12
Yeah,
days?
the 12 days of Spirit Week, that's from SGA.
That's great. I like it.
I like the grout out. That was
Everybody
nice.
looked comfortable at the basketball game the other day. The student,
Gemini?
yeah. The students actually look pretty cozy.
Fancy chicken nuggets.
All right, next we have recommended items. We have 7.01 through 19.41, and there is one addition to the agenda that wasn't out earlier, but it will be available when you sign in online or refresh the page. That'd be item 7.11. Motion to approve those items. Kevin, seconded by Kelly. All in favor on those? All right, and then I'll take a motion to go into executive session to discuss 2 personnel items. Motion for that. Kevin, seconded by Ed. All in favor? Aye, and there will be no action taken afterwards. Thank you very much, everyone.